Hello, everybody. It's Merlin here, and I'm doing a live stream, obviously. I had planned to do this a little bit earlier, but I just really couldn't, I don't know, get in the mindset for it. I'd kind of had like a pretty much a nonstop run this weekend just in terms of stuff that I did, and I just kind of needed some time to relax. But I don't know, I figured I just wanted to see if anybody else was up at this time that wanted to ask me some questions or talk about some stuff. Uh, yeah, I had a couple of things I did want to talk about, and I was debating about talking about it in kind of a podcast form or not. But since I'm doing a stream right now, I guess I'll just talk about it a little bit. Okay, I had a couple of things. Well, first of all, there's the Star Trek Beyond trailer, which, I this is the second trailer that's been released, and when the first trailer came out, like right around the time Star Wars Force Awakens did, there was, of course, that huge backlash that they just kind of made it look like a super generic action movie that Star Trek slapped onto it. And I felt pretty much the same way. But the second trailer definitely shows a little bit more of the movie, and the tone seems closer to what we want. I mean, it's darker. I don't know if it's going to be much smarter than the previous Star Trek reboot movies have been, but it does look a little bit better. I thought that it was a tone that felt a little more appropriate. At the very least, it seemed a little less generic, and I don't know if they purposely, made this trailer a lot more like that to suit people because of the backlash, or this was a second trailer ready to go. I don't know. Do they determine just based upon the alternate reactions people have immediately and then make up new trailers? I mean, I know sometimes they do, but you got to wonder how much time and effort the marketers put into something like that. So I don't know. It's kind of one of those things that I think it's kind of hard to judge, but it looks better to me. And I mean, I'm looking forward to it. I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of the newer ones, but I think that they're pretty good for what they are. And, I think people generally do like them. They're pretty good movies. They're fun and entertaining. The second thing I wanted to get into is kind of something that's come up rather recently. It's kind of this big controversy, and it's the whole Ghostbusters thing. Like, a couple people are refusing to see it. Namely, the biggest one was the angry video game nerd. But there, even before him, though, like there's just been so much backlash against this film based on the trailers, and I mean, in a way, it's nothing new, but I guess because Ghostbusters is just such a popular franchise for a lot of people, and it does mean a lot to them. I mean, it is very big and it is very influential. I guess that's why the backlash is particularly strong because Ghostbusters is so beloved. And I don't know. I'll be honest with you guys, I think that it's a little ridiculous. I think it's a little bit much. And hear me out. No, don't get me wrong. I react badly to trailers all the time. And I mean, that's kind of the point of the trailer. You are interested in it or if you're not. Now, I review pretty much every movie on Film Fanatics, so, I see just about everything. So it doesn't really matter for me. But even beforehand, if I was a big enough fan of something and they're remaking it into a particular type of film or show, I'm going to see it. And that's one particular, I guess, method of fandom. Some people will, refuse to see the things that they think will be ruining the stuff that's special to them, define the original. And, I can understand that, but I think you have to have an open mind, and that's really the best way to proceed in just about anything. But, personally, the way I feel is that if I'm a fan of something, I have to give another version a chance, even if I think it's going to be bad, and I can truly judge it for how bad it is and explain why I think it's so terrible and why it shouldn't be made, but only if I've seen the film. I mean, I can't preemptively judge something and say it's a bastardization without actually watching it. And I think people are taking it a step too far. I mean, I was going over it in my head, and within the past couple years, like the past 5 years or so, three of these films, which I loved, are like in my top 5, top 10 movies of all time, have been turned into remakes that, generally speaking, I think are infinitely worse than the originals. I mean, of course, there's RoboCop, which I absolutely hated because I thought it was an absolute betrayal to the original film in tone and themes. It was rated PG-13, and it just didn't need to be made. I mean, in and of itself, it was just a generic movie based on what it was. It would have been like okay, like kind of average. There were some okay things about it, but it was just tackling something that's so great that literally nobody wanted. And, one of my favorites. There was also the Thing remake, which was, basically technically a prequel, but they didn't market it like it. And it basically is so identical, it's essentially a remake. not a very good film, very generic movie that just didn't need to be made at all. But whatever. I saw it. Whatever. Old Boy. Old Boy's a fantastic film. My favorite movie of all time. Remade, kind of average. Just nowhere near as good. Been upped up with Spike Lee, and that goes up with other things as well. I mean, to be completely honest, they've got that Godzilla, they got Total Recall that came out, a couple years ago. There's some examples of that. The Turtles movies, which I had issues with, I still went out and saw it. you know, Even things like Dragon Ball Evolution, adapting something like that, or Avatar. I've seen them. I can judge it. I can tell you how terrible it is. But that's my opinion once it's been founded upon actual facts that you can back up and you can use to express opinion. I can understand not going to see it, I guess, as a decision and, putting it on strike, but you're just making the decision not to see a movie, which isn't really that amazing of a concept. I don't know. But the point is, the backlash to it, I think it's a little unfair. I don't get it because apparently there's an issue with the whole fact that it is women, and apparently there is some woman bashing about this too, and I didn't think that was a big issue, but I think maybe there are some sexist people out there that say that that's all there is to it. I don't know. I just think people are not giving it a chance. And let me give you this. In terms of movie trailers, I've seen worse. In all honesty, like I have seen many, many trailers that as trailers were not as effective. And one of the big complaints about the Ghostbusters trailer is the effects for the ghosts, right? That they look cheesy. They look like something on a Haunted Mansion or a Scooby-Doo movie. That's true. But to be honest with you, I felt like they were visually compelling. Like they didn't look bad. They really didn't look bad. And let's take a step back. Yes, the Ghostbusters effects were very good for the time, but there was still an element of cheesiness. That's kind of the point. And I think it was following the same tone as the original Ghostbusters movie. I mean, what do you want? Did you want it to be like Crimson Peak level or something? I don't think it would fit. It's still a comedy. It's still goofy. And if it's trying to, obtain some element of the 80s spirit of the original film, then it's going to be like that. It's one of those examples of the fans would complain about it either way. And it's a little frustrating. I'll admit that is a little frustrating. But, and in terms of the casting, they're all SNL women that have worked together. They have plenty of experience with comedy. I think Kirsten Wiig's a pretty good actress. Melissa McCarthy's pretty funny. The other two ladies, I admit I don't know them by name, but I've seen some of their stuff. I think they're both pretty funny, in some of the things I've seen them. Now, I will admit that the jokes and the comedy overall in it has not been, knee-slappingly good. But to be fair, if a movie, like a comedy, like a lot of comedies do, show all the funniest jokes in the trailer, that's ultimately kind of a flaw of the trailer, to be completely honest. So, I could take it or leave it. I think visually it looks all right. I'm interested in the plot, which is admittedly kind of a rehash of the original, but whatever. It doesn't look terrible to me. Do I think it looks amazing? No. I mean, to be honest, I'm probably going to go into it and say, if it has problems, it has problems. But I don't see this god-awful movie that everybody's maligning. And maybe because it's not something that is quite as precious to me. Because, like I said, I would have had similar reactions with, some comic book movies a couple years ago or, adaptations of other things that I like anime and some of the movies that I mentioned earlier. So maybe it's just because I'm a little removed from it that I can actually see kind of clearly on the subject. But Ghostbusters is a movie that I think is very well done. I really like it. It's a classic. But it's not like it's one of my favorite movies of all time. So maybe that's why I could take this moment to, remove myself from it a little bit. But, that's essentially my thought on it. And, for better or worse. Moving on here. Let's see. We've got... Oh, yeah. Something that I was kind of just randomly thinking about. I do have a couple viewers. I guess I should probably say hi to them. Hey, guys. Thanks for joining in. I did say this is a Q&A. So, yeah, if you have questions, please let me know. And, of course, like the video, share it, spread it around. And, yeah, definitely get people into this. I'm probably only going to do this for an hour and a half, honestly. But, some thoughts I kind of wanted to get out. And let me open up the link here. And I should have done this beforehand. I'll be honest, I'm genuinely surprised that anybody's even up now to watch this. Yeah. Oh, a couple of people looked at it already. Thanks, guys. Let's see. Who we got here? Forgive me, my screen's loading because it's very, very slow. I've got a couple of the windows up. Randomly, I was looking. Okay, the Wikipedia article I have tabbed here is actually. Oh, look, it's the X-Men. It's actually Fast and Furious. You're wondering there. Breeze Boy. I am Eastern Standard Time. So it's like about 3 o'clock in the morning, a little past that for me. But yeah, to be honest, this isn't like that unusual for me. But genuinely, I would have probably started this a little bit earlier. But yeah, like I said, if you got any questions, I'll try to keep an eye on the chat. But I've got a couple subjects I'm going to go through that are semi-news related. But yeah, that was the Ghostbusters thing. Here's another thing that's kind of been on my mind and thought about for a long time. And I think I might be in the minority on this. I don't know. But George Lucas and the Star Wars fandom, you know how George Lucas is pretty much this guy that everybody makes fun of and everybody hates because of the prequels and the stuff they did the original trilogy, which I will admit is terrible and doesn't make much sense. I have always just kind of felt sorry for George Lucas. I don't really hate the guy. I mean, I find the stuff he did annoying, but I don't think the prequels are great movies. I mean, they have a lot of problems, but I don't hate them. I think they have their positive elements too. And I think that people often forget. I think they often forget, that George Lucas did make Star Wars, which is like pretty much the most beloved thing ever, in terms of fictional properties. I mean, just about. It really is. And, I think people just forget that he did, create the original work and had a lot of input on the original films. Maybe less than he did with the prequels. And I don't know, I just have always kind of picked up on this vibe that George Lucas is just a very sad guy that, he really did have a lot of talent because some of his early films, like, for instance, THX 1138, which is an excellent hard sci-fi dystopia, very different from Star Wars, and American Graffiti, which is kind of this comedy that takes place in the 1960s that is very much based on his past and his childhood. I think that it was really a perfect example of how he was a really good filmmaker years before Star Wars. It's just that Star Wars was such a big success that it consumed his career. And I mean, some people might say, oh, why didn't he make other movies? And that's one thing that's always frustrated me about it, is like George Lucas seems like he just kind of gave up after Star Wars. And I'm thinking, if you had just continued making other movies in between Star Wars, people would have seen them because you're George Lucas. For a while, you could have ridden off that, just the popularity of those films. But I don't know, maybe I always found it kind of ironic that, as an independent filmmaker that, struggled against the studios back in the day, he ended up kind of becoming what he hated, and it became more about marketing rather than creating art and something for people to love. And I don't know. But the point is, the man is a person. He's a human being, and he's a human being who had a good imagination and did create some really great things. And I don't hate George Lucas. I don't know the man. I mean, I think some things about him are annoying, but I honestly feel sad. And I just want George Lucas to know that, I appreciate Star Wars in a lot of its forms, and I do really feel like him resisting releasing the original cuts is a little ridiculous. But on that note, there was a great documentary I saw years ago called The People versus George Lucas, which really explores the relationship of George and the fans and Star Wars as a property and kind of the relation of an art form in and of itself, along with the audience and how the audience perception of it can kind of change something into something different. It's a good documentary. So I recommend you guys check it out for sure. It's a good explanation of that. Good stuff. On a roll now. Let's see. Anybody say anything? Watched Apocalypse Online. Oh, don't tell me. Don't tell me anything about it, man. Don't tell me anything about it. Nope. I don't want to hear anything. I saw the trailer just now for a second, and I mean, the reviews I saw so far haven't been super kind, in all honesty. But it is what it is. We'll see. We'll see, man. I'm just mad they skipped Mr. Sinister, but you guys know all about that. Enough on that one. Moving on to just something I've been noticing in anime, kind of really. I feel like there's always been an element of it in a lot of anime, but I just feel like lately there has been Just in general, okay, the popularity of the superhero has really bled over finally into Eastern comics and manga. And the first example that I noticed was Tiger and Bunny, which was a pretty good satire on it, you know. And I actually thought it was a pretty good anime. I enjoyed it. I watched a bit of it, and I liked what they were trying to do. And I feel like Tiger and Bunny really helped start this trend of the superhero satire in the East, and then of course we had One Punch Man, which really exploded with the whole satire just of shonen and of course of a lot of anime tropes and action tropes, but really hero specifically, which I just find kind of fascinating, why that particular type works, because superhero satire is really nothing new, but it is difficult to pull it off really well, and I feel like Tiger and Bunny, One Punch Man did that really well. And almost as if to solidify the popularity of that particular trend right now, Boku no Hero Academia is essentially very similar to that, which I checked out recently. I read the one shot, which I thought was pretty good, and checked out like some early chapters. I like the concept of it. I will admit that I felt like it was kind of standard shonen in a lot of ways, but the general premise is rather unique, and I did like that, And I just think that's kind of funny that superheroes have attained a certain amount of popularity, but primarily in comedic form. And that's one thing I think does kind of bug me, is that if there aren't too many straight up kind of serious superhero anime. There are a couple I know out there, but nothing's ever really been big. I guess because of the over-the-top nature of it, hype up the comedy. I'm not entirely sure why that is. It seems to work in the art form, and that's perfectly fine. Like, I like that. I think it works, but I do kind of want like a legitimately, big budget, long-running shonen anime that is essentially costume superheroes that lasts for a while and is popular. I think that would be something really awesome that I would totally read/watch. Absolutely. Let's see. Well, since we're on the topic of anime, what episode am I on? Let's put it this way: when I have more details on that, I will get a video out to you. I'm gonna do a discussion of it pretty soon. It's just that I'm so busy the last couple days. But I'll get something out for you. Yeah, Zetman. Zetman is definitely one. Hey, Frederick. Yeah, Zetman's a good example, but that's literally like one of the few. You know what? I'll tell you what, DBZ Master. Depending on how I feel, I will give you my personal feelings on Legend very soon, if you stick with me for a little while. Let me get through my topics, answer a couple questions, and maybe I'll just start watching some things so I can get my first impressions done now, since I'm right here, and we can get the live reaction, which everybody loves better anyway. So, yep, keep those questions coming, guys. Like, share, all that good stuff. Get as many people as we can at 3:30 in the morning. All right, what was I going? Oh yeah, anime topics. This is something I wanted to do an actual video on, but perhaps it's safer that I do it just in this live stream. I don't know. Okay, my problem with Attack on Titan. I don't know if I've really this problem too much, because when Attack on Titan came out originally, I was really, really into it. Like, I was very much into the hype as much as pretty much everyone else. Like, it was the first new anime, seasonal anime that came out that I really enjoyed. I really, really was into it. But even within the first season of the anime, I did start to notice some issues. Now, I have mentioned before, I think, that the point in the manga where, spoilers, we discover that the wall was made from the bodies of Titans, and I guess that's in league with the whole criminal conspiracy with the nobility, the military, whatever. I didn't really get that far. I didn't want to spoil myself. That's when I kind of sensed in my mind that the manga really should have wrapped up a lot sooner than it did, and due to the popularity of it, it's going to get extended, and that could really hurt it. But even beyond that, even within the original first series of the anime, there was something that did kind of bug me, and it comes back to wasted potential. And I did discuss this briefly when I talked about Bleach. I did a wasted potential video a while back, and this is very, very similar to that with Attack on Titan, because Attack on Titan, I'm not going to deny, it has some elements to it that really make it enjoyable. Absolutely. But The premise of Attack on Titan is excellent. And the premise of Attack on Titan is one of the things that I think has made it so popular and really made it stand out to me specifically and made me really, really into it. Because it's so rare to see a shonen series, which is it's essentially a seinen, I'm sorry. A series like that where in an action anime, where most of the characters have superpowers and they're super strong or whatever, the level of tension is never quite as high, or at least it's hard to do that. Attack on Titan fell into the Dragon Ball trap. And, we can obviously see what I'm going to imply there. Okay. The best thing about Attack on Titan was that it was normal people. Essentially, normal human beings going up against these terrible, horrible monsters. Right? That was really awesome. You're like, how are they going to take these things down? It's so scary. People could die horribly at any moment. There were some real stakes. And you're like, wow, when Eren and his friends could take down one of the Titans, it was so awesome. But then, secret experiment with his dad, he can transform to a Titan. So essentially, fairly early within the series, he becomes a Super Saiyan, essentially. He has his Super Saiyan, or in this case, Titan transformation. And, the whole awesome aspect of it was that, once again, he was this kid going up against this horrible, horrible situation, and he wanted to take down the Titans for vengeance. And now he can turn into this big monster, and people don't trust him. Okay, it's a bit of a cheat, but it does add some dynamics. I'm okay with that. He has to learn to control the powers. They can help them learn how to understand the Titans better. Cool. It's not the way I would have gone. It's not my story. Whatever. I think it does weaken it a little bit, but it's still okay. But then guess what happens, guys? You know what happens. Very much like Dragon Ball, the one thing that was really special, really different about this particular main character that separated him, pretty much everyone can do it. It's like the Cylons of Battlestar Galactica. Oh, the big mystery is that what humans are really Cylons? Pretty much everyone's a Cylon. Oh, the Skrulls are invading in Marvel. Pretty much everyone's Skrull. And nobody's a Skrull. It's just one of those really stupid devices that can get really easily overused, and I think potentially really weakens the series. And with AOT, it's like, and what's worse, you could basically tell who was going to be a Titan most of the time because of the hair. I mean, it wasn't much of a mystery for a lot of them. And I think that's really what just made it less interesting. That's what it became, is people transforming into Titans. And it falls into this standard shonen battle series trap when it wasn't designed to be that. And a lot of series kind of fall into that trap as well. Let's see what the comments are saying. Let's see here. Reinhard or Yang? Reinhard? Curious. My favorite sci-fi manga or anime series? I've always been really partial to Guyver, I confess. I always thought Guyver was just kind of naturally cool. Well, I think Blue Gender is probably my favorite sci-fi anime, but I also really like Gankutsuo because it kind of takes I don't know what it is, but I like it when they take the whole medieval concept and they put it in space. I guess it's one reason why I like Dune so much, because I don't know. It just kind of seems like, even though it's not the way most societies would progress, I like the idea of like these massive noble houses feuding in deep space in the far future. So that's one thing I liked about it. The Count of Monte Cristo kind of takes those ideas. What are some other ones? Those are probably it. I mean, I guess Trigun is really up there for me too, and Bebop. Yeah, I've got a couple, to be honest, but it's one of those where, ironically, as much as I love science fiction, sci-fi anime is a little bit harder for me to focus in on, and not necessarily like, I guess sci-fi in a broad sense, yes, but stuff that takes place like in space, which is, I think, some of the coolest, maybe not necessarily as much. Lady Oscar, okay. Griffith. Okay, you guys are talking about that. What? Nausicaa. I know. Biomega. I know about Akira. Akira is great, of course. Okay, true. Oh, you were watching Battlestar Galactica. Now that's cool. Do I like Hunter x Hunter? Yes, Hunter x Hunter is actually one of my favorite anime series. Honestly, I love Hunter x Hunter. I did read one of the more recent chapters, and I actually am going to be talking about that a little bit later. So if you hold on there, we'll rock. Yeah, I'll get into a little bit more for you. Uh, Kutsuo. Yeah, Yuji does kill. Yes, the ending of it is pretty ridiculous. It's my one big problem with gender, but that's common with a lot of anime series. It's like, I'm fine with it, and then there's like, it's just like, what? So left field. Like, what? Anyway, uh, oh yeah, actually, the next part was Hunter x Hunter, and there was okay. The recent chapters have come out, and people have already several people have been like, all right, well, heck with this. I'm not going to get into Hunter x Hunter again. I'm not going to deal with this because we know exactly what's going to happen because we know Togashi's problems. And by the way, Saiyan Z3 was well ahead of Neverworld on that when he did that. I'm like, when he hit his little thing, oh, why Togashi's has trouble with Hunter x Hunter. Like, this is all news to us, man. Just goes to show that some people might not be as ahead of the ball as you think they are. But regardless, everyone's saying like, oh man, Hunter x Hunter, screw it. He's just gonna write like a couple chapters and then he's gonna be gone for another 2 years. You know what? Probably. I'm not gonna lie, that's probably what's going to happen. Like, but that's the thing. That's why I'm not like, I'm not like completely all over it. But I shouldn't really be laughing about this because in all honesty, if the guy has, issues with depression or he's sick or he's busy with his life, I can totally relate. And I think everyone can relate. And that's the thing. I think with anybody who is a celebrity or a creator of something artistic, we often kind of separate it because he's in Japan on the other side of the world. We're never going to meet this person, probably. So we can easily hate on him and say, oh man, why don't you make more Hunter x Hunter chapters? You know what, man? Let him do what he wants. I mean, yes, it does kind of suck, and I would agree with a lot of people saying if it's that much of an issue for you that you're going to have a hard time finishing it, you probably should wrap it up and not say you're going to make a whole nother arc with no real conclusion. But then again, a lot of long-running series do that. I mean, some manga have been going around for 40, 50 years, and I'm sure that haven't always been continuous. So, but in that case, he should hand it off to another author or some other artists, whatever. But in terms of that, yes, there's expectations. And once again, we've seen this pattern before. And actually, to be honest with you, though, the stuff that I did read, okay, these are my impressions of the recent Hunter x Hunter chapters, if you just generally want that. Once again, the artwork was not the worst I've seen him do. I feel like he has a little more effort into them than some of the stuff. Like some of the stuff in the Chimera Ant was ugh. This stuff with them on the ship, I mean, it's not very good. Like you can tell, yes, the criticism's still there, but it's not the worst. At least the background stuff looks decent. Now, in terms of the actual plot, I mean, once again, it's standard Togashi stuff where you see him with a whole nother group of characters, another group setting up establishments of who they're going to catch, why they're going to catch them, what the plan is. And it's a lot of hyping up. I feel like it's just a lot of build up for something that we may not even see right away. They're not even at the island yet. So it's just like, you know what I mean? It's very, very consistent with the way Togashi has always been. And that's fine. I mean, I thought that he's setting up the different characters and learning about the different members of the nobility. And you're like, all right, this seems like we're going to get into another very intricate, complex storyline, which is really going to be expanding on the Hunter x Hunter world, which is fine. But once again, I kind of want to see more of Gon and Kahlua and everybody doing stuff, and just let's get to it. Let's actually get them further into the action. And by the way, considering the fact that Gon and Kahlua did pretty much have their entire section to themselves, and Kurapika his entire section to himself, and feels like the different members of the actual group kind of, instead of remaining together, just hijack certain parts of the series. How about we just have Leorio and Kurapika get their whole arc together and just completely remove Gon and Kahlua, because the sense of the main character in Hunter x Hunter is, something that really is very flexible, I think, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. You know what I mean? It's just, the point is, a lot of the things people are thinking about are probably legitimate issues, but even so, it is what it is. Okay, made it to the Dark Continent. Zodiacs. Yep, hiatuses. Yeah, I kind of. They're ass now. Kind of. Yeah, I kind of want. I just want Miyazaki to keep doing more stuff. Honestly, like I know he's basically retired, but Three Kingdoms, 2010. Oh, better than Rome, Viking, Spartacus. Is that like another HBO type show? Oh no, it's the movie, right? Well, yeah, I've actually never. I don't think I've ever seen the film. I've seen pieces of it, and I believe there's like a director's cut that's like better. But I've heard some people really don't like it. I don't know. I was always interested in it, but I never heard like glowing reviews or anything. But it did look like something I would enjoy. I tend to be into those sorts of things. I love the historical epics. Yeah, but like I said, guys, like the video, share it, send in questions or comments. I'll, occasionally look over. Let's see. Oh, uh, this one is more specifically for Dub Zombie. If he watches this, I'm very slow. I kind of took a break from Persona 4 because, as usual, I've got too much stuff to do. But I started playing it a little bit again, and Persona 4 is awesome. I really like it. Like, I don't. I feel like it's a game that I almost shouldn't like, but it is very well done. It feels like it's. I mean, it is of course an interactive anime-esque RPG, and of course it's set in high school. But it doesn't bother me because the characters' interactions with each other seem very genuine and believable, and I like the characters, and I think the premise is interesting. The plot's interesting. The atmosphere of the town's good. Uh, I like the level system based on improving knowledge, actually answering questions at school. I mean, they're not really difficult questions, but it is within the realm of possibility that if you are a moron, you might get it wrong. But I kind of like little things like that. I have been enjoying it. Uh, so yeah, Persona has been pretty fun actually. I'm kind of mad that I wasn't able to find Persona 3 because I remember seeing quite a bit of that played by my sister like years ago, and I don't know. I guess I could skip it because it's the really emo one where they shoot themselves in the head constantly. Like, and I'm just like, that's very silly. That's very very silly. And I think Persona 4 is probably superior based on what I've seen, but not really sure. Uh, Dancing All Night, Vita, Chow Chow, drama series from Stars show, JoJo Part 4. Watch it. Yeah, I probably could start watching it. Not my favorite part of JoJo. Pretty much after the Dio stuff gets resolved, I kind of lost interest. But I'll start watching it eventually. Probably dies down like with everything else with me. Let's see. Oh yes, just a little minor thing, but that the Harry Potter just thing is coming back again, like in terms of its popularity. I mean, don't get me wrong, I like Harry Potter too, and I loved the book back in the day and everything. And so it hasn't been that long since the movies have ended, but it doesn't just seem to me that it just seems to me like there's just more Harry Potter stuff now than there has been a long time. Like I never really went away, or maybe it did go away. I just don't know. I mean, I just keep seeing the Harry Potter world advertised, and of course, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find It, and J.K. Rowling produced a new play, which apparently I'm going to end up reading. Uh, and I'm just like, I don't have a problem with it, I guess, but I don't know, why is Harry like just kind of staying level or being taken as a classic like the Lord of the Rings films, which admittedly have a longer history than Harry Potter, but you know how they were just kind of there for a while, and everybody like says Lord of the Rings are great, but it's not like it's constantly everywhere. Harry Potter's just still everywhere, and I'm like, I guess they're just trying to market it like everything else, turn it into a massive franchise, but I don't know. Just something I was observing. I don't know if you guys have thoughts about that, but I don't know. It just seems like it's everywhere again. Let's see. Oh, just in terms of future videos that I'm planning on making, I got like a couple requests for things, which I guess I'm gonna have to look for because I wrote them down or I typed them somewhere, but I don't know where they are. But I'm gonna get to them. I wanted to do this video on One Punch Man. It's going to be kind of a little analysis commentary video. I did want to, of course, do my first impressions of Galactic Heroes and Gundam, and I kind of want to get back into Sailor Moon again. So those are a couple videos that you guys might be seeing in the next couple weeks. Also, some Patreon requests. I got a Kill Bill thorough review I'm going to be doing, and also another one as well on something, which is yet to be disclosed, but it's a mystery to me and to you, apparently, until it happens. But what else we got? Yeah, Kubi Joe as a character. Oh, I like him. I like him. I was pretty cool with him as a character overall. Uh, they're fighting in the Heavens Arena. Well, that's cool. That's something. More creative stands and villains, just marathon current episodes. A Gohan-inspired character done right? Are you implying that Gohan wasn't done right? That's what it sounds like. But that Gohan thing is a whole nother discussion. Let's see. Oh yeah, something that really made me happy that I found out about recently. Okay, now I don't know if this is official yet, but okay, Spider-Man: Homecoming. The villain is supposedly going to be Michael Keaton, and he's going to be playing the Vulture. Now, I don't know if you guys know this, but this is pretty much my dream come true. Like, just about. Like, you understand. Like, in terms of comic book adaptations, I mean, the Sinister Six is like the be-all, end-all for me. But to be honest, the Vulture is my favorite villain. And if you just get to see Spider-Man fight the Vulture, who is my favorite Spider-Man villain, and no less to have Michael Keaton, the great Michael Keaton, who, ironically enough, played Birdman a little while ago and so well, that's just icing on the cake. Like, that is awesome. I hope this comes true. I really do. I'm so hype about this. As you can tell, even talking about it. Fluffy, what's going on? Anime Rick's in the house. What's God? Well, that's a very deep question, man. City of God. It was brought up again. I do have to watch it. I do have to watch it again. I was actually playing around with an idea of like just doing a bunch of let's watch certain movies, and I was gonna like just kind of stream them with you guys because apparently people like it when we do that. So I might end up doing some of that. Maybe City of God will get on the list. Kushana. Yes, I mean the Sinister Six movie. We were so close to getting it with the Amazing Spider-Man. That's why it was so frustrating to me. I'm like, come on, like and this is the first step, and I'm just so excited about that because if there's the Vulture, then there's other people. Nausicaa. I need to actually watch Nausicaa. It's been a while. I always thought the dub for that one was not exactly the best, in all honesty. Let's see here. What else did I have listed? Yes, Future Trunks is coming back. Hopefully, though, that's gonna lead some more opportunities to better storylines. We will see. We'll see. By the way, I tried to watch the most recent adaptation of Invasion of the Body Snatchers, which is like back in 2007 was The Invasion. I couldn't get through it. I kind of went downstairs and just stopped watching it. But I will say this. If you guys ever watch that movie, it's kind of a guilty pleasure. I wouldn't mind like, doing a riff on that sometime because Nicole Kidman in that movie, I swear to God, her reactions to these situations, she's more like a zombie even before she's possessed. Even like just like really, there's what is happening right now? Like seriously, most of the people in this movie don't even act like human beings anyway. It's like how they've been taken. My favorite anime movie. That's tough because there are a lot of them that I like, but I would honestly say it's probably Princess Mononoke. I absolutely love the animation. I think the story is great. The music's great. I like the characters, the mythology. It's absolutely awesome. Ralph Bakshi, yep. The Trigun manga, I mean, certain things about it I kind of like, but the overall flow, I did not. I just think that the anime added a lot more generally, and when it got good, it got really good. And I know those manga purists might disagree, but no, you're right. I wasn't a huge fan of it. I just couldn't get into it. Which series would I choose to be adapted? Let's see. Into an OVA. That's a good question, actually. A specific OVA. Oh, well, you know that I want 20th Century Boys to happen at some point, for sure. That's definitely one. And I think Vinland Saga, heck, that needs a whole series, Absolutely. Absolutely. It really does. Yeah, that just needs to happen. It really, really needs to happen. Let's see. I saw a couple movies recently. I guess I'll give you guys some brief reviews. I saw Angry Birds, which I'll be honest, guys, I've never played the games. I know very little about it. I thought it looked stupid. I thought the concept was stupid. But in all fairness, though, the movie was a lot better than I was expecting. It's basically a Jason Sudeikis comedy. It's a lot more for adults than kids, which I thought was kind of jarring, and some people might not like. Like, they'll take their kids in the seat, and some of the jokes are, they're adult, but some of them are just kind of crude and it is, it's not. Actually, I think it's kind of smart up until about the middle of the movie where it becomes kind of really super conventional and resolves itself like a kids movie typically would. I think that's kind of when it starts to go downhill. But I think it was a lot better than I was expecting. I'd actually check out the Angry movie. It's not that bad. Um, I saw Neighbors 2, and I liked the first Neighbors, to be honest. I thought it was pretty funny. I mean, pretty standard, Seth Rogen type stuff. And Neighbors 2 is pretty much the same as the first one, just with girls. And I mean, it's not great, but it's not bad either. I still relatively enjoyed it. If you like the first one, you'll definitely like the second one. And I also saw The Nice Guys, which was directed by Shane Black. Had Ryan Gosling and Russell Crowe as like these private investigators in the 70s who are looking for this girl who's apparently on the run. And honestly, it was a pretty good mystery, and the chemistry between the actors was really great. It was really, really funny. I was laughing. My one buddy was laughing in there a lot as well, but like laughing a lot harder than most people in the theaters. So I don't know if the type of humor was necessarily the one that working for them as well, but I still really enjoyed it, I have to say. Let's see. Pluto, OVA, and Battle Angel. Cool. Need more than. Oh yeah, I know. It would have to be adapted to something else. Oh yeah, I talked about that earlier, Rick. I think it looks better than the first Star Trek trailer. I mean, I look significantly better. I'm much more on board now. I think the Warcraft movie, once again, don't know anything about it because I never played Warcraft before, except like 2 seconds a long time ago. But it actually looks good, and I feel like after I see the Warcraft movie, I might actually genuinely want to play Warcraft. Maybe not WoW, but I'm actually more interested in the story now. So we'll see. Preacher aired today, so that's cool. Preacher is a comic book series that a lot of people do enjoy, and I think that even though I haven't read much of it, I think it's a good thing. It feels like pretty much anything that has any kind of relevance in graphic novel form is getting some kind of live action adaptation, which is great. Actually, 11/22/63, I want to check out. I heard it was really good, and I might just have to read the book because I've read most of Stephen King's stuff, but most of the stuff that they bring to the screen for him hasn't been very good. So I'd rather read it, probably. I mean, Under the Dome, I know they changed drastically, and I really liked the book. Battle Angel, of course, Berserk. Well, from what I saw from the most recent Berserk trailer, I don't think it was as much CGI. I don't think so. But, I'm not entirely certain. Let's see. Go back to my handy-dandy list. There was a trailer I did see that I thought was really awesome. And it was the Lego Batman, because I knew almost instantly what it was, but the build-up was great because it was like from the studio that brought you Batman, and then it ran through all the movies, like through The Dark Knight Rises, and and they were like randomly, and the Lego movie, Lego Batman. And I'm actually pretty hyped for it because the Lego movie was really awesome, but Lego Batman just looks hilarious. Like, I was just like, oh god, it looks great. Oh man, I mean, Lego Batman is, well, like a lot of things, he pretty much stole the show because you put Batman in anything, he just automatically makes it more awesome, it seems. But yeah, that was kind of an awesome surprise. I'm really looking forward to it. It might be what I'm most anticipated for like next year. I'm really hyped for Lego Batman. I don't know if it'll be better than Lego Movie, but it could be very good. I'm hoping. If they put the time and care into it that they did before, that'd be great. And that kind of leads into something I mentioned briefly before, but that was just my thoughts on a franchise. And we've got the next Michael Bay Ninja Turtles on its way. So, after some thinking about it, about the previous film, I remember that when it came out originally, I did hate on it quite a bit, and I did have issues with it. I still stand by that the only thing they really did get right were the turtles. I don't like the way they look, but then you could argue, well, if they are mutant turtles that are humanoid, are they going to look pretty? Maybe not. I still think there's probably a better way you could have presented them. Whatever. The point is, yes, their characters were funny. They had good interactions. The main purpose of the film was well executed. I mean, at the end of the day, when you are going to base something off of a character that does exist, as long as you preserve the essence of those characters, that is pretty much the most important thing. And I believe that, yes, they did do that with the Turtles movies. Significantly better than the use of the Transformers movies. I still think that the Ninja Turtles films have a lot of problems, but I got into a discussion with somebody about how they are, in fact, for kids now. And at the end of the day, it's kind of surprising, but if the kids like it, that is something at the end of the day. And I'm actually looking forward to the new one more than I was the original, because they are actually listening. Bebop and Rocksteady are there. They look ridiculous, but then again, Bebop and Rocksteady were always ridiculous, and the Turtles concept is kind of ridiculous. So, okay, loosen up a little bit. And I mean, they're going to have Shredder back, which is awesome, I guess, and Krang's going to be in it. I mean, whatever. Maybe the presentation won't be perfect, but to be honest, I think that it won't be as bad as you might suspect. War drama series is my favorite. Band of Brothers, probably, honestly. RTS games. Yeah, I was thinking about checking out Warcraft 2 or 3, honestly. James Cameron been waiting for his movie series for a decade now. Wait. Oh, wait. Which movie series? It happened much of our production. Oh, Moribito. Moribito. I couldn't really get it. I didn't think the pacing was very good in that show. Honestly, I couldn't really get into it. Yeah, unfortunately. But I like the main character though. I mean, she was cool. The spear. I think the kid she had to protect in that particular series was very great. The last thing I had to talk about was Game of Thrones, because I just wanted to say that the recent episodes are significantly better. Like, literally, I originally joked when the season started, like, okay, we're gonna have to wait all season till Jon Snow comes back, right? Oh, he's back now. So okay, I was happy about that, but it does feel like the first couple episodes, it's build up, and then like, oh, last episode was great, and then tonight's episode stuff's happening again, and I'm like, oh, finally get some momentum. But I did want to briefly talk about Game of Thrones, because very rarely do I get into the hype with things. I don't know why that is. We could probably get into a discussion about that some other time, but in all honesty, I don't know why it is. But Game of Thrones is one of the few things that, yes, I do want to watch every week when it comes on. I legitimately really like the show. I love Game of Thrones. I think Game of Thrones is really good, and I think it's excellent. But I'm going to be completely honest. A lot of things that I was kind of predicting might happen seem like they could possibly happen, and I can honestly picture the end of the series more clearly than I could. At least the way that it would make sense to end in a satisfying way. And I'll be honest, I have really liked pretty much every season of Game of Thrones, and it's been consistently very good for me. It's gotten to the point now where I'm like, I kind of want the show to start ripping up. Now, I'm not saying it has to wrap up like this season or anything, but I'm thinking to myself, how much longer is this going to go on before people kind of start to lose interest? Because the jokes have really started to become more prevalent. Winter's taking forever. I honestly don't even care about the White Walkers anymore. I forget about them half the time, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's right, that invasion up there. I just have lost a lot of that there. And I mean, and Jon Snow, probably going to be taking more time getting involved with his family affairs, which is perfectly fine. We feel like it's going to be resolved by Daenerys and her army eventually anyway, or their unity or whatever, which would be perfectly fine. Be perfectly fine. I'm just thinking, I would not be surprised that if Game of Thrones gets into its next season or two, if it's not going to start ending by then, which I think it logically should, people will start complaining and people might start losing interest. I honestly think so, because I'll be honest, I'm getting a little tired of I really am. Like, all right, let's just wrap it up. Okay, Rick says it's got 2 more seasons. Okay, good. I honestly think 2 more seasons is the max, because if it lasted much longer than that, I would be like, look, I don't care anymore, because I like it, but I am kind of starting to get like, can we wrap this up? seriously. But then he makes me think, all right, so things must just really get crazy in the last couple seasons. Yeah, I mean, 7 or 8 seasons is probably fine for an epic, but to be honest with you, I really think they could have condensed some of the stuff that happened, and they'll completely create a whole nother arc and a whole nother set of characters and subplots that honestly probably didn't even need to be there. And I know they're trying to create this epic world, and that's what the Martin likes, but he isn't my bitch. He's not. I mean, once, but I'll tell you one thing. I think some people can imply that he is kind of at the mercy of fans now. And you could say, oh, no, he could do what he wants. He took his time. Like back in the day, I mean, those books he took years to write before people decide to finally say, oh, we could turn this into a show now. And he was in no rush. And then, they start producing them so quickly, he can't even catch up, So it's at that point where he better start wrapping it up, because if they've only got 2 more seasons, and by the time it ends, if he wanted to make something, it might not have as much impact later on. So I am kind of glad about that. I am kind of glad about that, indeed. But yeah, that's pretty much all I really had to talk about. So yeah, I can take some more questions or comments if you guys like. And as you guys said, share the video if you want. Maybe we can do it for a little bit longer. Just let me know. It's pretty much everything I wanted to get out. I was planning on doing a podcast on all that stuff, but I just ended up doing a stream because why not? Oh man, let's see here. Cyberpunk 2077. Let me look at a trailer for it. That's what YouTube's for, right? They would just, there we go. There we go. All right. Loading. Da, 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 da. All right. What was it? Cyberpunk 2077? There we go. Let's look at this. Okay. Game I've never heard of before. Going to watch the trailer for it. The teaser trailer. Okay. Let's see what we have here. That's not even a thing. Wait a second. Hold on a minute. I mean, I saw a trailer for it, but wait. Wait a second. Why is everything so old? All right, you know what? I'm just going to look at this one. I'll assume that this has just been in development for a long time. Adam Sandler movie, no thank you. Oh, wow. So, okay, so this game's just been in development for a while. All right. Project Red with a K to be edgy. Big screen that. Oh, that bullet just shattered on her face. Like, it's glass. How about that? I don't like this music, though. So it's Killzone meets Kanye West? Yep, looks like Killzone to me. Or Deus Ex or something. Oh, okay. I see. She is a cyborg. All right. And her arm was like a freaking. Oh. Hmm. Commissioner Hammerman. So it's kind of like Blade Runner. They're hunting replicants essentially, except these replicants can sprout like razors on their wrists. Yeah, that's pretty much what it looks like to me. Yeah, that looks. Yeah, that looks pretty cool. Not gonna lie. No, 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 Babylon 5. Honestly, Babylon 5 is a show that I watched like back in the day. I saw like bits and pieces of it, but that was when I was a kid, so my memory of it's not very good. Babylon 5, from what I understand, is essentially Deep Space Nine, but Deep Space Nine's probably better because I think it lasted longer and it's Star Trek. But Babylon 5 is something that I want to get back into. I'd recommend it from what I understand. Yes, it's probably better than Battlestar Galactica. I think the new Battlestar Galactica is honestly overrated. I mean, I know people love it, but I prefer the original myself. I know it's a little campy, but I don't know. There's just something about the guys fighting robot aliens I enjoy. Yes, Adam Sandler's films are basically just paid vacations for him and his friends. I mean, I think very few films have been more obvious than that in that particular. Seriously, I really do. Dream of Spring. Oh, that's actually a pretty good title considering, winter supposedly ending, right? Oh yeah. That is some good lemonade. Whew. All right. Well, guys, seriously, any questions? Because if you guys don't have anything you want to ask me about, you can think of, keep me to peace for quite a bit here. So, yeah, take a minute to think of something. Otherwise, I'll probably wrap it up. Yep. Let's see. I've actually been watching. Uh, I actually okay. I actually have been watching everything a bit more, and I had mixed feelings about that guy's channel for a while because, well, of course, his main thing is the "I hate everything," where he says "I hate whatever," and he just kind of rants about it. And admittedly, he has said that his stuff, for the sake of comedy, is a bit exaggerated. But at the same time, like anything exaggerated, there is a source of truth within it. And I think the guy pretty much clearly expresses what he wants to on certain topics. But obviously hates a bit of exaggeration. But I will admit, the guy, one of his first videos that I watched was talking about how he pretty much thought that the anime fandoms were among some of the worst on the internet, which I guess, admittedly, from my experience, the small minority of them that kind of make it worse for everybody are pretty bad. Um, but he doesn't really like anime and kind of hated on it a bit, and I'm like, oh, whatever. So first impressions about the guy weren't particularly great, but I've been watching more stuff, and I think that, for the most part, he is kind of funny, and he honestly has some relevant stuff to say. But his search for the worst, where he watches pretty much the worst movies ever, those are pretty entertaining. He finds some bad movies. So check out his channel, I guess, if you like this sort of stuff. Um, let's see here. Let's see. Some questions came up. Thoughts on new movies and where they're going. Thoughts on the plan of the movie. Yeah. I think yeah, somebody requested this before. The Planet of the Apes movies recently, actually, in a marathon. My favorite is the original. I really do the original film a lot. But I like the new movies quite a bit. And, I think I like the direction they're going, but I always kind of wanted more human elements, so to speak. Like, I think it's interesting that the apes so far, we're seeing them in that stage of development where they are becoming more human, but they're still very ape-like in their presentation and interact, which I think is ironically the selling point, and maybe it's harder for audiences to swallow the really advanced apes like they were back in the day. But at the same time, though, I kind of miss like the apes just being ape men talking to each other, and that's kind of, I want to start seeing more of that, just closer to the original. In fact, to be honest, let's have the you know what? Let's just have Planet of the Apes keep going to where they have advanced starships and they could just like have intergalactic battles with space apes. Seriously, why not? Let's get to that point. Seriously. Oh man, what excellent series. I haven't enjoyed one since Three Kingdoms and Rome. Man, Rome did end too soon. It really did. I have to say, it really did. Rome did end kind of soon. I think Spartacus is pretty entertaining. But I don't know if I want to say Spartacus is really good, though. It has an element of cheesiness to it, which I could never really get past. Like, it's just, well, this could be better. Controversial question, but what do you think of Milo Yiannopoulos? Yiannopoulos. Well, since I don't know what that is or who that is, I'm going to have to type it in Google and find out for you. And then you'll know. You'll know my opinion. Milo Yiannopoulos. Milo? Milo. British journalist and entrepreneur. Going to go to his Wikipedia. Man. Applied online tabloid magazine. Oh, Gamergate stuff. Ah. Don't know his specific contribution. I don't really even know a whole lot about the Gamergate thing. I just kind of know generally what I've heard. Gamer is one of the perfect examples of the worst aspects of the internet and hardcore fans and just annoying people that can do things with anonymity just because they can. And I know it's a source of a lot of sexism and mean comments and bullying and terrible things, in the gaming community. So, I mean, my thoughts on that are just that it's horrible. And if he has anything to do with that, I mean, that sucks. And, I admit there's freedom of expression, and then there's just ignorance, and the internet is kind of this weird place where I think people do feel free because that sense of lack of responsibility, but the people behind the screens are still people, and we are still interacting. It's not like they don't exist. You got to treat them like such, and I think that you can't stop it to a certain extent because there has to be that freedom, and that's kind of one of the great things about the system of communication that we have. It really is, and I think it's an awesome thing. And like I always say, the ability to create and express yourself and connect with people across the country or across the world is great. But once again, we see that people can be complete a-holes to each other for no reason, when deep down you'd hope that they would know that people shouldn't be treated this way. But alas, that's just kind of the way the world is, and that's just another example of that, just in a different form. But it is terrible, though. Do you like Fist of the North Star? Yes, I do. I do. I really like Fist of the North Star, actually. I got into it a couple years ago. I really think Kenshiro is an awesome character. I think that just the whole, lone hero wandering the desert of vengeance and helping people and ultimately being the savior, kind of like a martial arts version of Mad Max, is really something. And I've always liked some of the villains a lot, over-the-top nature of it. It's one of the most gloriously violent things in over-the-top anime fashion, of course. So yeah, I like Fist of the North Star, or Hokuto no Ken as it's called in certain circles. Hardly play games, simply don't have time. Same thing. Yeah, I'm there with you, man. Like, I swear, it's just. I don't want to complain, as I do, but my life is just. It's pretty busy, and I feel like the only free time I want it to be downtime. Rarely is, where I have time to sit down and just do leisure things purely for leisure. Feels like it's something that almost never happens anymore. Sadly, this is probably one of the few examples of that I have, and even this is kind of a hobby or something that I do, So, but my point is that it's so hard for me to sit down and play any video game, let alone something that's like a freaking RPG or something. It's just tough now. It really is tough. And of course, because I'm behind console wise, it feels like, I don't know. It's kind of irritating. But at the same time, it is what it is. But I totally understand. It's tough. It's really tough. Video gaming is one of the hardest things for me to keep up, as it always has. And hopefully I'll be able to at some point, but we'll see. I'm actually hoping to do some like possible collab, let's play commentary type things with a friend of mine, a younger friend of mine who wants to go through like I don't know, just kind of some stuff, and we'll see if it happens. I've got a couple people that actually want to try and do some things on my channel, maybe create their own segments. My friend is actually finally thinking about starting his own channel reviewing Kamen Rider stuff and Sentai stuff, and I think that'd be really awesome. So I'm hoping that that gets off the ground. I'll let you guys know, and I'll get support that. But I kind of want to get some of my friends involved with this stuff, and hopefully I will. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. What do you think of Peter Parker as a character? Well, Spider-Man is pretty much my favorite superhero, or one of my favorite superheroes. And I like Peter Parker when he's at his best, I guess. Like, the whole thing about him being a person who makes mistakes and who isn't perfect at everything and struggles a lot is one of the things that separates him from a lot of superheroes and, boosted his popularity and really, I think, makes him one of the most interesting characters is because even for a superhero, you really get the sense that he is a person with real flaws. And I think with a lot of other heroes, they may have flaws, but they aren't as apparent because they're so grand. That's one of the advantages that Marvel has over DC in a lot of ways. But, rare for me to say that, right? But yeah, I think Peter Parker is great, but he does have this ability to just be really kind of angsty and emo and beat himself up over things that have really nothing to do with him in any way, which can be an annoyance. And he does have this tendency to honestly act like a teenager. He really does. Like, they kind of keep him in school all the time. And it's just like, really? It's just, he seems like he's acting like a high schooler even though he's like in his 20s or 30s. So Peter Parker is a character I do like overall, but he can get kind of annoying and frustrating sometimes. Etrigan? I think that Jason Blood's tragic in a way, but the Etrigan character, no, I think he's just a demon to do what he does. I think they should his own show, honestly. Because I like the Constantine version they made. I'd love the Jason Blood show. I don't know. I know that sometimes they like to show Etrigan as like this evil demon, and they kind of do a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde sort of thing, kind of like the Hulk. But I don't know. I kind of like it when he's sort of okay with it. Etrigan's not evil and just roam around as this demon saving. I don't know. I don't think he's really tragic, to be honest. That side of his character. All right. Well, let's see. Yes, I'm glad you brought that up. The DBZ color manga. I'll have to show you guys sometime, but I went over to Books A Million. It's a bookstore. I don't know if you guys know about it, but I decided to go into Band, it's called, because it's the first time I'm in that bookstore in a long time, like months and months. I haven't been in a while, and I decided to pick a couple of things. I picked up Dracula because I wanted to actually give Dracula a good read, and I picked up this collection of Scarecrow comics from DC, which I read the first appearance of Scarecrow, which is actually pretty good from the 40s, and I got the Saiyan Saga Part 1 of the DBZ color manga, and it looks beautiful. It looks like I just saw that, and I'm like, I got to check one of those out. So, yeah, I actually did purchase that recently. It's funny you brought that up. I really like it. It's kind of a weird tween of the anime and the manga, but, there's something about it that is really cool. I know that manga typically can pull it off in terms of black and white. That's why they produce it that way for, obviously mass production. But color manga looks pretty awesome. All right, guys. Well, if you have any other questions at the end, you can put them in the comments below. I'm actually starting to get kind of tired, but I'm kind of glad I did this. I got some stuff out I wanted to say. And if you guys, of course, have any things that you talk about in the future or, anime to check out or, videos to make, I'm always open to requests. But, for now, I'm just going to say, check out my channel and, tell people about it if they like it and subscribe to me if they like my content. And got more videos coming out to you guys in the future. And feel free to check out the Fandom group for anime collab discussions and stuff and Film Fanatics for weekly movie reviews. And, yeah, so everybody take it easy. Have a good start to your weeks, and I'll talk to you at some other point. And be Merlin out and stay magical.